Today we are going to begin making a winter birch tree landscape. Birch trees are very unique and beautiful in the winter because of their tree trunk pattern. So birch trees are different than most trees because their trunks are actually white in color and they have gray and black markings along the side of them. We're going to make a landscape scene where there are 3 birch trees in the snow. We will create a shadow, a snowbank, and then a background, watercolor background, and if we choose to add some salt sprinkled over the top of it for effect of snow, we can certainly add that. So to begin making this project, you're going to start with a piece of white cardstock paper. You're going to put your name on your cardstock paper and then turn it around. You're going to have your paper in portrait orientation, which is going up and down. At each of your table will be a roll of blue tape. You're going to take a piece of tape and you're going to, probably about 7 or 8 inches long, and you're going to rip the tape and simply place the tape vertically going up and down on the paper. The one thing that you need to make sure of is you need to make sure that the tape comes to the top of the paper. If it goes off the top edge of it, that's okay. Then you're going to take another piece about the same length. You're going to rip the tape. You're going to place another tree or piece of tape, which will become the tree. And then you're going to rip a third piece of tape and do the same thing. You can see that I'm beginning to have my tree, the way place that they end is kind of going down a bit. I'm going to try and make them as straight as possible, lining up with the paper so that my tree trunks aren't going from side to side. After I complete that, I'm going to very lightly with a pencil make a snowbank. So very, very lightly, I'm going to sort of make the markings of where the snowbank will go. This will help be my guide so that I know not to paint beyond this. I'm going to leave that white for snow. After I've done that, I am ready to start painting. Now when I paint, I'm going to go all the way across side to side, stopping when I reach my snowbank. The reason that I'm painting over the top is when the paint dries, I will be able to remove the tape and the area where the tape is will remain white. So choosing my colors, you can choose between maybe 2 to 3, maybe 4 colors. With this one, I simply went from a blue and gradually carried it down to a purple. So I think I'm going to do the same over here. So I'm going to go ahead and dip my paintbrush in water, dip it in my paint palette, and start painting, working side to side across the paper. The more water you use, the lighter your color will be, but the less time it will take to create your paint effect. I'm going fast simply for the sake of showing you how we go about doing this. Simply dipping again. I may choose to use a bigger brush. If I use a bigger brush other than a watercolor brush, that will also allow my paint to carry a little bit faster. You won't really need to worry about the time on this. Then I'm going to transition colors. Since I'm just choosing 2, I think I'm going to transition colors about halfway down. If you were choosing 3, you might want to move into your next color a third of the way down the page. So now I'm moving into purple, but I want to bring my purple back up into my blue a bit. That way it blends my color. What I don't want to do is to have it appear that there is a clear definition from blue to purple. I want it to blend and transition. Continuing to paint as I go down, making sure that it's blended. Again, this is not true watercolor paper, it's cardstock paper, so if you go over one area too much with water, it will tend to bubble and even rip the paper a bit. So you just want to be aware of that as you are painting. And when I get down towards the bottom, I want to be very, very careful to not go over the line that I have created in pencil for my snowbank. Okay, once I have completed this, while my paper is still wet with water, is the time that if I wanted to add a bit of salt onto the top, I could. The reason for adding salt is when the salt goes onto the paper, onto the wet, the salt will absorb the water. Simply sprinkle some salt and leave it on, and you can already see the effect beginning to take place. Then the next week in art class, when it is dry, the salt will simply brush off, and it will create this crystallized effect, which sort of looks like, gives the illusion of snow. So this is where your project will end today. Next week in art class, we will finish it. We will add shadow for the tree. We will pull the blue off, and then we will practice and create the black birch lines for the tree.